Good morning and welcome to episode 2, and in this episode we're going to be talking about quick CX wins that you can implement now. My name's Terry Gray and I am the Director of Public Sector for the Gamma CX practice, and with me I have Richard Hall.
Hi, I'm Richard Hall, Director of CX Solutions at the Gamma Enterprise.
Thank you, Rich. So let's kick off with why do quick wins matter? What do you think, Rich?
Projects can be quite long and they can be quite difficult, and people can get lost in the detail, and it helps keep the momentum going and gives people the confidence that what they're doing is the right thing. So if you get too far down and you're still stuck with the details of implementation and there's no discernible benefit, questions can start rising in people's minds about why they're doing it and what's going to come out at the end of it.
I think one of the traps that people can fall into, something we get asked for all the time, is case studies. Mm-hmm. Give us evidence of things that you've done in other organisations and how well it's performed for them. And they're useful to a point. But I think, I don't know what your take is on this, but just because it worked in someone of a similar organisation, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work in the same way for you, right?
Absolutely. So every organisation is slightly different. They've got their different priorities and pressures. So whilst it's useful to see how other people have done it, it's always going to be different in every organisation. And that's one of the key things that we do, because we do this every day, is getting very quickly to understand what people's pain points are, how we can address them, and how we can move people through it quickly and as easily as possible.
We were talking in the previous episode about how important it is to try and help customers to frame and convey what they believe the challenges are, mm-hmm. but also to challenge those perceptions and sort of reach a consensus on what good looks like. And that really helps us to deliver on some of these quick wins earlier on. So, Rich, just out of interest, what would you consider some areas in which we could make immediate impact? What are some of your favourite things to tackle head on?
It's customer experience. So that's where the friction usually it manifests itself most readily. So where people are struggling to get through, and either on the voice or digital side of things, web chat, there might be too many layers to actually get through to where you need to get to, and that just means that when customers actually end up speaking to somebody, that they're frustrated. So there are very quick things we can do around automation to make sure that customers are served as quickly as possible, so you don't have to speak to somebody necessarily. Mm-hmm. You can do that in a very safe, quick, controlled way to make sure that you're not having to get into big data integration or anything like that, where you can just take small chunks of functionality and automate those in very controlled way in parcel-sized chunks.
I love that. One of the methodologies that we sort of like to employ with our customers are things like a model office. Yep. We have model office built in as part of our project implementation plan. Why is that so important to customers, do you think?
It shows them what they're going to get. It can be quite difficult. Everything is very abstract when you're going through statements of works, doing proposals, and then through to design. It can all be very abstract until you actually get down and create something that is tangible and real for people. It can be quite difficult to actually see what it's going to look like. There can be some fairly large changes that people are going to have to go through. If you've had CX established for a while on different systems or using different methodologies, you've got different reporting, you've got different metrics that you're going to be focusing on. All of these things are changing quite quickly, and it can be hard unless somebody can actually see it, touch it, feel it, and work with it in a controlled way. Then the model office helps you do that. So and also it helps de-risk, because if you think if people want to iterate over different models and different things, you can try them out in the model office first to see where the rough edges are going to be before you go through to implement.
Yeah, that's a great point. And one of the things I really like as well, this is something relatively new that we're doing here at Gamma, is proof of value projects. And the idea behind a proof of value, similar to a model office, but we're taking, instead of deploying a whole new contact center platform or something like that, we're taking a particular challenge, clearly defining the scope with the customer of what the challenge is and what good looks like. And in a particular example that we've done recently, we've actually employed their first iteration of AI, because whilst everybody's talking about AI, they can't exactly decide what is a good use for it.
Yeah.
So we gained consensus with the customer on a clearly ring-fenced requirement, which was actually, it was a university, and we were dealing with postgraduate recruitment. What we did was created a 3-month proof of value, which does two things. It exposes the staff to the benefits of working with AI and the realities of working with AI, which is a really big point. So because there's some serious considerations.
Well, it's very different. So it's a new world. And AI, nobody's sure what it's going to look like. If you contact centers and CX have been around for as long as I've been in work, and people have got very established ways of doing things, know where the hard edges are, what reporting they need to work with, and how to drive the best outcome and efficiencies within that context. That context has changed significantly, but it's happened overnight. Nobody's got really any real hard experience of it, so they don't know where the pitfalls are and what it's going to look like for them. And when they have to report back, what are they reporting back? How do they say, yes, we've succeeded? Even the idea of success has changed, what it looks like. It's a very new world.
It is. One of the great things with the proof of value, of course, is it deals with the real challenges of implementing AI into any function, into any organization. But it also tackles some of the things around the edge, such as perhaps if stakeholders are skeptical or even fearful of the impact of AI, it lets them have a look at it, have a play with it, and understand how it's actually going to benefit them. Yeah. In the instance I was talking about, we agreed with the customer. The customer was very clear that if 10% of their inbound inquiries were dealt with by an AI agent, they would consider that a success. In reality, what actually happened was that within the first week, it was addressing 63% of all inbound inquiries to a resolution. Yep. And it changed the daily life of the people that worked there, because now they could deal with stuff they'd never got to. Yep. But now they were dealing with the next problem because that one's solved. What it also did, which was great for the customer, was give them real tangible data on adoption. Because when we talk about CX, the process, the technology and everything is great, but the trick, the real pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is adoption. How do people use it? And that has now drove the business case for wider adoption of AI, which is great, and they wouldn't have been able to do that without a proof of value. So when we talk about these projects and proof of values and model offices, what makes a CX project low risk, in your opinion?
The risk is around two things. It's security of customer data, which is absolutely paramount. You don't want to be leaking customer data anywhere. And it's securing the overall customer experience, making sure you're not adding friction, making their lives more difficult, and making them more frustrated. So just going to the first point on security, it's being very clear on how the data is controlled. And within the AI world, of course, you have guardrails, but there are multiple layers of guardrails you're going to put around it. So you want to go through that in steps. You don't want to be starting off with the most complicated use case first of all. So you, because the way that you approach the data security is not a simple thing. So taking something like a knowledge base and automating that, so you can get rid of the day-to-day queries that are fairly, I'll use the word low value, but low effort. If you can automate those, and then you can give the your colleagues the capability to deal with the more complicated cases that take more time, take more effort, then that's actually high value. Even if you're dealing with low value transactions, what you're really giving is time back to the contact center, because that's the bit that they struggle with. They don't have time. So yeah, that's the first thing. And then with the other part of not adding friction, well, that's where we come in to make sure that we're building to best practice. We've done this multiple times. We know what works. We know what doesn't work. Reporting metrics that some people have that may not work in this new world, and we can help make sure that the reporting metrics reflect accurately what's going on, because it's different. It's a different world. So yeah, making sure those reporting works on real time and historical, so that you can see what's going on. And there are other layers as well that you can add in. So real time quality management is a real help in this type of environment. So where you don't know necessarily what's going to happen, AI can be non-deterministic, so you can't absolutely predict what's going to happen. So if you put in real-time AI-driven quality management, where you're looking to see where your hotspots on customer friction are, that will very rapidly give you the ability to control and change what's going on within your overall customer experience.
No, that's really helpful. Thank you, Rich. So I'm going to move on and think about some practical examples of things that we've done in a targeted way to try and help in the immediate embarkation on a CX refinement process, should we say. So we're getting involved in a project at the beginning. So what are some of the practical examples that you can draw on of things that we do early on, some of the targeted fixes that we do? Where do we start?
Well, if you're just talking in the traditional voice and digital, it's just working through the customer journey. One of the problems you can get, especially in larger environments, is that there are multiple stakeholders. So you can end up with a fragmented journey because of the stakeholders they have different ambitions, different goals. And then trying to bring them together so that we can give a more cohesive customer journey. So you don't end up with that fragmentation. That's probably one of the big things, and especially where systems have grown over time. And there is historical cruft that sits in the system, and it needs to be refined down. So that's probably the first thing to do, is go in and find out what's really needed, because as time goes on and systems develop and people make changes, the corporate memory wanes, so people don't remember why things are there. So you have to challenge and make sure that things are there for a good reason. That you've got teams built in the right way, that you've got the reporting built in the right. I'll come back to reporting quite a lot, because it's one of the key things with any environment. But yeah, to make sure that these can wash their face, have real justifiable reasons for being there, so that when you build this out, you're not just doing the same old stuff again, put on with a new shiny label on it.
No, I absolutely agree. And I think one of the things I look for, I've believed this for a long time, is that we really only get the chance to change customers' behaviour at the point of need. So we know statistically that something like 72% of people, when approximately 72% of people, when presented with a range of self-service options, will still pick up the phone to talk to someone, because that's just the easiest thing to do. That for me is the prime moment, that moment that matter, is getting hold of the customer at that point and presenting them with options to do what they need to do in the easiest possible way.
Yep.
So we've shown that by offering them the option of perhaps using self-service assets that already exist, maybe moving their journey onto WhatsApp, or even delivering updates on perhaps open cases that they've got if they're bringing for an update, delivering that to them in a personalised IVR journey very much changes their journey.
One of the key things that's changed, actually, especially when you start looking at digital, SMS, WhatsApp, RCS, Apple Business Chat, Facebook, they allow for a very different set of interactions, and it can be asynchronous, so you don't have to be. People tend to think in a very linear way, traditionally, that how a customer journey might look, actually that journey changes considerably when you get into the digital world. You can start off on voice, that's absolutely no problem. If you then say, well, there's going to be a delay, or you can't finish it just then, you can move that over into a digital journey, so that they can get updates, and maybe they call back on voice, maybe they need to move over to video. It doesn't really matter, but that's a very different set of planning that you need to do to make that work, because as I say, people tend to think of this in a linear, I start here, I end up there, and I've got step A, B and C, and I press 1 for that, and I press 2 for that. But actually, the world's changed completely, and you don't need to think in that, and you have to think in that asynchronous way of, there may be a good 10, 12 hours, days between responses from a customer, but that's fine, that's absolutely fine, if they're getting what they need. So,
no, I agree. And I think when we start working people, it's really important to understand that quick wins are really not the end goal. They're there. It can't replace the long-term CX strategy. It's about building value, creating trust, and demonstrating that the team, and it isn't just us and the customer, it's everybody working together, we can actually deliver this value and this vision. If we think about Gamma, our role in this complex web of CX, what is it that we bring to the table? How can we help customers build confidence before scaling and embarking on these projects?
As you say, the quick win isn't the goal. The quick win is actually to show you what's possible, to take people through it, all the steps that are necessary. It's effectively a way of training people to give them familiarity with a system that they've not seen before necessarily. Or maybe using it in a way that they've not thought about before, because we're iterating over multiple customer systems on a real-time basis. That set of lessons that we have just goes into our knowledge bank that we can then wheel out to customers as is needed. So yeah, it's not so much the quick win that's a real win out of it. The win is getting customers going, I can do that. The other thing that's changed in a lot of these systems is that customers can do a lot themselves now. There's a lot of self-service, and that empowerment, I think, is another step change that people aren't used to. And once we show them that what's possible and how easy it is to do it, that gives them the confidence to start iterating themselves, so they can start making changes, start thinking about it in a different way. And that thought process is just getting them moving in that way so that they can get the best for their customers.
No, that's great. Thanks, Rich. So I think for me, to summarise, CX progress isn't all about all or nothing decisions. It's not about quick wins or long-term progress. It's both, right? And for me, it's about unlocking that value and informing the customer of what comes next. So thank you, Rich, for taking the time to speak this morning. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.